From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, we go on the hunt with a couple of detectives hunting apples, why their work is so important.
I don't want it lost in time.
We go inside the mind of the king of the game birds.
That's the kind of winter habitat that they're looking for too.
Plus, new numbers give us a better picture about the need for more hands on the farm.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Congress is taking steps to address the labor crisis facing farmers and ranchers. The House Judiciary Committee has approved the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. It includes reforms to the H-2A guest worker program and creates a merit-based visa program. Now the bill moves to the full House for consideration. It comes on the heels of USDA releasing a new farm labor report. It shows hiring is up 3% over October of last year, with 809,000 employees hired directly by farm operators. The average wage, $15.02 an hour, up 4% from last year. American Farm Bureau Federation economists say the low unemployment levels in the U.S. make finding farm labor much more difficult. However, hiring good labor has been a challenge for a long time.
What farmers and ranchers will tell you, though, is that finding labor has been increasingly difficult for several decades. Even during the economic downturn, farmers were having trouble sourcing labor. So certainly a tight labor situation only exacerbates that problem.
The Chinese Commerce Ministry official says Beijing is working to resolve conflicts with Washington over trade, and it's dismissing speculation that trade talks might be in trouble as unreliable rumors. But the ministry spokesman said he could not disclose any new information, adding China was committed to working toward an agreement. Now, the Wall Street Journal's reporting that China's chief trade negotiator has invited his U.S. counterparts for a new round of face-to-face talks in Beijing. Financial markets, they have swung between highs and lows in recent days, depending on reports about the talks. Now, the latest drop coming Thursday, with Reuters reporting a deal might not be completed by year's end. President Trump has said he hoped to sign a Phase 1 agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping this month. He is also threatening higher tariffs if the two sides don't make a deal. And the numbers are not all bad, not super great either. When it comes to trade, USDA now saying that U.S. ag exports are projected to total $134.5 billion for 2019. Imports, they're forecasted to be $129.3 billion. That equates to more than a $5 billion surplus for the year, which is the lowest since 2006. Now, as for export value, that's being revised down by $2.5 billion. The decline primarily due to lower expectations for corn and soybean exports. Looking ahead to 2020, experts say projections suggest a small recovery in the ag trade balance to $8 billion. Not just trade is affecting many producers, but also lower corn and soybean yields, and the University of Illinois says it will affect farm incomes this year. Economists reporting net incomes in Illinois will decline more than $80,000 per farm from last year's levels. Now, you can see the drop on this graphic they provided. They say those will be offset by higher corn and soybean prices in China trade aid this year. They're also calling for 2020 incomes to be negative if yields are at trend levels and there are no more trade aid payments. And due to delays this harvest season, USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service says it will continue to provide the weekly crop progress report beyond the last currently scheduled date of this coming Monday. NASS saying it will evaluate the harvest progress for all crops each week to determine how long to continue the report. It's a busy time of year at the nation's cotton gins, as meteorologist Mike Hoffman shows us.
Thanks, Clinton. Well, the AgDay crew recently paid a visit to Carroll Gin near Pioneer, Louisiana, reporting ginning is in full swing. The USDA saying in its last report, cotton production in the country is forecasted to be 20.8 million bales. That's down 4%. I'll have more on your forecast coming up in just a little while.
Lots of people are getting ready to make a big holiday meal next Thursday, maybe you're starting to defrost your turkey. Well, the American Farm Bureau Federation is out with its 34th annual breakdown of how much this year's feast will cost. A traditional meal for 10 people, that includes turkey with all the trimmings, will cost you $48.91. That's less than $5 per person, and that is a penny increase from last year. Now, the centerpiece of the meal, the turkey, will cost slightly less than last year at $20.80 for a 16-pound bird. That's down 4% from 2018. As for the sides, fresh cranberries, $2.66. Homemade stuffing, $2.68, and you can make 2 pumpkin pies for $5.84.
Not many people realize that farmers only receive 8 cents of every dollar that consumers spend on food.
The Farm Bureau survey results indicate Americans have faith in those who grow their food, with 88% saying they trust farmers. It was a big deal when it was opened 5 years ago, but now one ethanol plant is pausing production. And later, we go on the hunt for rare apple varieties, why this volunteer effort is so important in the country. A cellulosic ethanol plant is pausing production. Poet says it will not be buying any additional corn plant residue at its plant in Emmitsburg, Iowa. Poet saying in a release it will be scaling back commercial production to research and development in hopes of exporting the technology. Now, the plant was able to turn corn cobs, leaves, husks, and minimal stalks into renewable fuel. Poet blaming the decision on the EPA and the battle over the renewable fuel standard mandates. The company says it will be laying off 30 of the plant's 70 employees in February. USDA reported weekly export sales of 788,000 metric tons of corn last week. That's 49% higher than the 4-week average. And we've had 3 days in a row this week of flash corn sales to unknown destinations. What that means for the markets in this report from the CME.
This is Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures coming to you from the floor of the CME here in Chicago, and we're getting a little bit of bid in the corn market, which is nice to see, but I think a lot of this is likely just on the back of option expiration. We know that option expiration for December options is tomorrow, and a lot of times going into option expiration, we look at the open interest and the strike prices with the most open interest. And as it stands right now, it looks like there's pretty good support for December corn at 370. Wheat has been surprisingly the leader here this week. That Chicago contract for March basically trading in a range here this month, though, looking at 510 to 520, give or take a little bit on that. We're not necessarily sold on Chicago wheat, especially above $5. We think there's more potential in the Kansas City contract. Trendline support in the 50-day moving average at 430 represents good value in our minds.
USDA reports October milk production rose 1.7%, totaling 17.3 billion pounds. And while production is up, prices have been up too. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan has more on how long the momentum can last.
Here now with Brian Rice of Vault Ag. Brian, how quickly things can change. Last year we were at Farm Journal's Milk Business Conference talking about will we ever see $20 Class 3 futures again for milk? This year it's been a bit of a reality, but the question is, can these prices last?
That is the question. Right now it's on firm footing, so it can last, I think, through the end of the year. I don't see any big break, but as we get into the January part of the calendar, U.S. cheese price is so much higher than the rest of the world. Pricing resets, forward contracts reset. We're going to have a hard time exporting.
So right now it's a situation of low prices cured low prices.
I think so, yes.
But moving forward, you think prices, I mean, is $20 milk too high? Is that something that will kill demand?
So the converse, high prices can cure high prices too. And, you know, cheese north of $2 when Europe is in the 160s, we can't compete for the international markets at that level. So if we start losing those exports, it'll back up here, and then that'll fix the high prices.
So are you suggesting hedging? I mean, really, what do you think right now to take advantage of some of these prices?
You know, it's always an unknown. So in terms of if I'm a dairyman and I'm looking into 2020, you got to look for the highest parts that are out there. Second half of the year, Class 4 is where we would look at the moment. Okay, second half Class 4 is at $18. It's 50 cents over the first half. It's 50 cents over Class 3 in that area. So that would be the portion of the milk check I would start with. DRP floors on an $18 second half Class 4 at $17.20. So that's above historical average. You know, you got to start picking your points there.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll have much more right here on Ag Day.
meteorologist Mike Hoffman joining us with a look at the drought monitor. And Mike, kind of a diverging picture if you look southeast versus west.
Yeah, it's improved in the southeast, not so much in the Four Corner region. Continues to be very dry, and parts of Texas. Now, admittedly, Texas has at least improved a little bit over the past 4 weeks, but there are still some areas of severe and extreme drought west central down into South Texas. Only 2 small spots in Georgia, though, left of the severe drought there. And like I said, though, from southwest Kansas into the Four Corner region, still very, very dry. Go back 4 weeks and you can see there was a lot more reds and oranges there from the southeast into Texas, even parts of the Ohio River Valley where those have gone away. Most of the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley just completely done as far as the drought's concerned. We still have to be concerned parts of Texas and definitely the southwest as we head through time. But as of now, you can see most of the Corn Belt itself, no problems whatsoever. It's wetness that's still the problem in those areas. And here's the weather map as we start the day today. You can see some pretty good areas of rain there. Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley. We just talked about you folks and you've turned wet. Snow up in the far northeast and also the northeastern Great Lakes, and we're also seeing a little bit of snow there in Colorado, western Kansas into the panhandle of Oklahoma. That storm system is going to ride along this front and mainly going to be rain as it moves through the Mississippi Valley. You can see some areas of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm south of the front in the warmer, more humid air. Heading through the nighttime hours tonight, there might be a touch of snow, sleet on the far northern edge of this, parts of Illinois into southern Indiana early in the day, but the accumulating snow probably waiting until this thing gets over into West Virginia and also Ohio, getting some of that snowfall. Now, taking a look at precipitation estimates past 24 hours, we've seen some very light amounts in the Great Lakes, decent amounts there, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. Adding in the next 36, we're going to add most of it through the Tennessee Valley and into the southeast, which will continue to diminish the drought areas in that part of the country. Snowfall then mainly has been confined to Colorado and northern New Mexico and the Rockies. We won't add too much more there. We'll add just a little bit there in the Ohio Valley as we head through tomorrow afternoon. Still on the chilly side, but not overly cold across most of the northern and central plains, Great Lakes. Low temperatures tomorrow morning, very mild in the southeast, and it'll remain mild during the height of the heating as we head through tomorrow, but still just on the chilly side. Again, not real cold. You can see these troughs in the jet stream kind of riding through the northern plains into the Great Lakes. And then as we head into next week, we see the trough kind of digging in out west for a short period of time. That probably comes back east after that. That's a look across the country. Now here are some local forecasts. First of all, for Lewistown, Montana, partly sunny and milder today, high temperature around 50 degrees. Little Rock, Arkansas, cloudy periods of rain, some of it heavy, high of 59. And State College, Pennsylvania, variably cloudy. A few spots will see a shower, high 47.
Still ahead, we go in search of the king of the game birds and follow the clues they leave behind as Chip Flory takes us outdoors on the farm.
I'm Justin Moore. Welcome to Outdoors on the Farm, brought to you by my friends at Roxor. From muddy trails to dusty work sites to hidden hunting spots, nothing gets you through it like a rugged Roxor. It's a side-by-side unlike any other.
Outdoors on the farm, where I was born, I was raised, and I'll do whatever it takes to stay. Outdoors on the farm.
We're with Jay Gyra back out in Plankinton, South Dakota at Circle J Ranch. Like I said, some premier pheasant hunting out here in South Dakota. And Jay, when you look across the landscape, I mean, it's flat ground. There's no question about it. But on this ranch, there is a diversity of habitat that wildlife love, need, and it makes for a heck of a day out here. Let's start with some of the grass, because that's when people think pheasant hunting, they start with the grass.
Right. We have some horses, we have some pasture here, and we do mow some of that, but we leave some strips in there. Also back here by the food plots, we leave grass strips on the edges. There's some sloughs back there. We have this old grove that was the original grove here. And there's an old road there, a lot of cover in there, and they'll get down that ditch out of the weather. And we realized that works so well that we picked our best fruit plot was and put a grove in there.
Yeah, let's talk about the food plots next, because when you put those food plots in there, they're there for a couple of reasons. Obviously, they're there for food, but you do it in a way so that it's also providing cover for those birds out there.
Right, we try to plant it fairly thick so that hawks, other predators can't get at the birds. Gives them some protection from the weather. Snow comes, ice, they kind of bend over, make them almost like a little cave under there, so they have good protection.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That's the kind of winter habitat that they're looking for too. Now, when they're looking for that overhead protection from the hawks, from whatever, you've got this old grove back here that's, you know, it's a good perch for a hawk, but it's also got some cover in there for the pheasants.
Good cover. The grass is pretty tall in there. Same with the other grove here, a lot of cedar trees and that. Them birds can get under and get out of the way into there.
Yeah. Now, the shelter belt that you planted, how long has it been there? It's been there
15, 20 years. Yeah, close to 15 years at
I
least.
remember when it wasn't there. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
But that cover in there now, you talk about when the snowstorm rolls in, that's like checking into the hotel for these birds.
Yeah, if we're hunting and there's some snow or cover, that's the first place to go, because they're just in. You get in there and they're out of the wind. You walk through, they can't believe the difference in temperature from the outside of that grove to the inside.
Exactly. And it's that diversity of habitat that the wildlife really go for. And you've got to give wildlife, if you want it to stick around, you got to give them some choices in habitat.
Right. Because you can't just have one area, like all the rain. If you just had slough areas for nesting, your birds are gone. You need some high ground, some low ground, different food plots spread out over your property.
Absolutely. Jay, it's been a pleasure hunting with you over the years out here. I've got another one coming up. I'm looking forward to that. And we're out here at Circle J Ranch in Plankinton, South Dakota. For Outdoors on the Farm, I'm Chip Flory.
All right, thanks, Chip. They're traveling across the country in all kinds of vehicles and on foot, all in an effort to find apples. But these aren't just any apples. They're varieties you've probably never heard of. While these apple detectives are on the hunt next. So-called apple detectives in the Pacific Northwest are out to find apple varieties that are thought to be extinct. Now, the Lost Apple Project is searching remote canyons, windswept fields, and hidden ravines of northern Idaho and eastern Washington state, parts that were once known as the Oregon Territory, on the hunt for rare apples.
It might be here. Let's stop right here. Okay, can you take...
Spending countless hours crisscrossing hundreds of miles in trucks, on all-terrain vehicles, and on foot.
Can you take the GPS coordinates right here? It might be one of these apples right here, one of those trees.
These volunteers are in search of a rare fruit.
And what we're trying to do is recover apples that in the last 100 or so years have been lost or thought to be extinct.
The fruit trees planted by the earliest homesteaders as they settled across the West.
Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was approximately 250 apple varieties growing in eastern Washington and northern Idaho. Today, at least 25 of those varieties are believed to be extinct.
Ben Scudder and his fellow apple hunter E.J. Brandt are scouring old county fair records, newspaper clippings, and sales ledgers to figure out which varieties existed in the area.
We obtained a ledger book from a relative of a nurseryman who was in Whitman County in the late 1800s, and in that ledger book were a number of receipts.
Then they hunt them down, matching written records with old property maps, land deeds, and sometimes the memories of pioneers' great-grandchildren.
I don't want it lost in time. I want to give back to the people so that they can enjoy what our forefathers did.
Each time he or Brandt find a new tree, they place apples in a Ziploc baggie carefully labeled with the tree's latitude and longitude and the date it was collected. The apples are then shipped to the Temperate Orchard Conservancy for identification.
We are warmer here in Oregon than we were 10, 15 years ago even. And so you have to have varieties that can last, that can grow, produce fruit, survive the heat, and maybe survive the cold winter, depending on where you're going to be.
Cooper says the trees could eventually boost genetic diversity among modern-day apple crops. So far, the Lost Apple Project has found 13 long-lost varieties.
They planted these apple trees, they enjoyed them. I want our future generations to enjoy it.
For Ben Scotter and Brandt, however, the biggest joy comes in the hunt. Project founder David Ben Scotter says there were once 17,000 named apple varieties in North America. Only about 4,000 still exist. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great one.